the studios of KHTS in beautiful downtown Newhall, California, it's time once again for Families in Action with your host, Cary Quashin.
Co-host.
Families in Action
Co-host.
is brought to you by
Co-host.
Action Family
You're my
Counseling.
host with me.
I'm trying to ignore him. Alcohol and drug counseling for teens and adults by Action Family Foundation and by KHTS AM 1220, your hometown station. And now, here's the man with the most. Here's your host, Cary Quashin.
Co-host.
Okay,
and
co-host.
that would be my silver fox friend over here. So, no, I work at Henry Mayo. I'm also the executive director of behavioral health unit there.
You do all kinds of things.
Yeah, I do all kinds of things, and the staff decided that Mike's now the silver fox.
The silver fox.
I love that, Mike.
Has to do with the color of my hair, not the silver in my bank account.
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was both.
Well, okay, we'll leave it at that then, right?
Yes.
Cary,
Yeah.
People have been telling you that they saw you on television on a show called Intervention Codependence.
You know, it's a new show. It's called Intervention Codependency. And what it does, it deals with addicts, but a little different than the normal intervention show because we're dealing with people that are addicted to drugs, but they're couples.
Oh.
So we're intervening.
So both are addicted?
Yes. So we're intervening on both, and we're putting them in different treatment centers. So the show, and I have a little deal. I'm doing some of the interventions on the show, and then more than half the people are going into Action Family Counseling for treatment. So it's been pretty exciting. I didn't really know it was on that much until everybody said I saw you. So I watched a repeat of it last night. So
Did you?
Yeah, it was actually.
How'd you do? Did you do okay?
Besides, I look terrible.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't have much to say in this one. I did a little bit of the counseling along with Christina, which is the host of the show. Okay. But next week I'll do a lot more. I'll be a lot more involved in the intervention itself.
Now,
and that's on A&E.
For our listeners, Cary, how difficult is it? Now, let's separate these. Okay. Normally, you do an intervention. You know, the cameras and the lights aren't there.
Right.
But how difficult is it, and how different is it when you're doing it for television?
You know, to me, it's not much different. Because I'm going to do what I'm going to do with the cameras or not. I will use the cameras sometimes as my friend, if that makes sense, so I can work it to help other people, and also the person that I'm doing the intervention on. Some of the shows are very interesting. I did an intervention with Channel 4 News a few weeks ago, was on, and I did an intervention with French 24, which is worldwide. It's 100 million viewers. That'll be on in April.
That's France and a bunch of
Italy,
places
Spain, America. It's all over the place. That intervention lasted, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
The TV show met me at the office. I'd never met him before. I had the person come in the family. We put them. They knew there were going to be cameras. They threw them in a room and did the intervention, and bang, it was done. Some interventions, when you're doing television stuff, because it's television, it could take all day because they have little pieces and this and that. But an intervention itself shouldn't take long. It gets me crazy. Some of these interventionists,
right?
Because what they do is they'll meet with a family 3 or 4 times first. They'll charge $3,000. I don't want to meet with anyone. Just tell me what's going on. Let's do the intervention. When I hear people call me saying they do that, I'll do the intervention free. Because, you get the right players and everybody in the right room, and the intervention is going to be successful. So there you go. And, but I guess what I'm trying to say is all interventions are successful, even if the person doesn't go to treatment, because everybody that's really close to that person, addiction affects everybody, right?
Right.
I love that new commercial. Where does depression hurt? Everywhere. Who does it hurt? Everyone. Same with addiction. So everybody that's connected with somebody that's addicted to drugs is hurting some way.
Right.
So an intervention allows that family or friends an opportunity to really let that person that's in trouble know how they feel. And I'll tell you, I've done many, many interventions, and I can't think of anyone who didn't go into treatment. So I think just about all mine are successful.
And again, for our listeners out there, in case they didn't know, you do a lot of national television. You're kind of the go-to person. And it's funny because I've told you before, I said, hey, Cary, guess what? I saw you on television last night because I saw some rerun of something that was recorded years ago. Like, for instance, you did a lot of Montel Williams shows.
I sure looked better when I was younger, didn't I?
You had that ponytail thing.
I had that ponytail thing going on. I know, until my wife said, cut it off. Okay.
But you've done a lot of television.
Yeah, I've done a lot.
And continue to.
And continue to, exactly. And, I remember 30 years ago, I was working at a hospital, and the doctor said, "Hey, we're sending 2020. We don't want to watch your group," and I got pretty upset about that. I didn't want TV in the room. First of all, I was a little bit nervous myself.
Sure.
Second of all, why am I going to let these people spill their guts on TV?
And it's not natural. I mean, it's not, television
Right.
isn't a natural setting.
No, but I remember doing that group, and I never seen these children. There were kids in that. They work harder. And at the end of the group, I said, "What the heck happened?" And they all went, "I don't know." So for some crazy reason, those cameras bring out the truth and the real in people. And I learned that really quickly, that a lot of these people that I've done interventions on, they're still clean. And I'm talking about here, Ricky Lake, right?
Yeah.
It was New York. It was 0 degrees, and they fly me in there to deal with this one. This one's really pretty cool. Pregnant gang girls carrying guns and using drugs. So they fly me in, and I have a suit in one hand. I'm wearing blue Levi jeans and a black leather motorcycle. It's freezing out. So I pulled up, and Ricky says, "Hey, just wear that. You're cool." So I said, "All right." Put the suit down, did the show, and it was kind of crazy because at the end of the show, we got these kids some help. And I still speak to those kids 30 years ago,
Interesting.
and they're still doing well.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to hear.
It's just, it's really crazy. And also television. I mean, I can do an intervention on you. I can have your wife, children, and all that, and you're going to treatment, and that's that. But when you're doing it on TV, you're helping thousands and thousands of people.
Right. Well, as you know, I did a lot of television and behind the scenes.
I know you
and
did.
when you show up with the cameras and the lights, there's a certain reality that sets in, even though it's not really reality, if you will.
Right. But it's the perception of reality at the time.
Hey, Cary, I've got some good news here.
I
Something we
love
talk
good
about
news.
all the time.
Did you hear that? He's got good news.
Good news. This is from the Action File. The FDA now requires a black box warning on painkillers. Now, before I get into the details, let's set this up just a little bit with respect to painkillers. Aspirin is the cheapest and oldest manufactured painkiller on the market, or one of them. And I bet you didn't know this. German-born scientist Felix Hoffmann.
You know why I know this?
You know this?
You know why?
Oh, because I told you.
You told me earlier today. That's right.
German-born scientist Felix Hoffmann is credited with creating and popularizing what is known as, now I have to take a deep breath because I have to try to pronounce a very long word, acetylsalicylic. I did it. Acetylsalicylic.
I'm not going to try. I'm not even going to try to repeat it.
It was in 1899, and it's what we know as aspirin today. And he had a reason for doing this. It was to help ease his dad's arthritic pain. But now let's fast forward.
He would never have known, huh?
Let's
Look at it now.
fast forward to 2016. Americans consume more than 15 billion, with a B, aspirin tablets a year. That's just in the United States.
Wow.
Now, it's hard for us, even though our national debt is in the billions, but just for us guys walking around here, guys and ladies, we don't think in terms of billions. So let's kind of put this into some kind of thing we can all understand. If we consume more than 15 billion aspirin tablets in a year, that's a little over 1 million a month, right?
Right.
Okay, so or billion with a B. We're still in billions. Okay, but let's just assume that it's only 1 billion. That works out each day we are downing over 33 million aspirins. That's a lot of painkiller.
Well,
consumption.
we want to take a pill for everything today. We do. We know that.
Here's what's happening with the FDA. Now they're requiring what's known as a black box warning on painkillers. And by the way, the black box warnings are the FDA's strongest warnings, and they're meant to educate doctors as they prescribe medications to patients. They're putting this now on immediate release opioids. They will have a black box. That is oxycodone, fentanyl, and they'll carry the black box warning about the risk of abuse, addiction, and overdose. Prescription opioid painkillers are divided into 2 main classes.
Pay attention to this, people.
Extended release, which have more pain-killing opioid per dosage, and immediate release, which has less opioids but need to be taken more frequently.
Which are the most popular?
Well, those that they're taking the most of
Is the immediate release.
Immediate release.
Because people want immediate
And I believe, if I read this correctly, that the extended release, they already have in 2013, the FDA placed similar warnings on that.
Well, I saw that.
So,
yes.
so they're actually closing the gap now for extended release. So, 99% of opioid prescriptions are for immediate release painkillers. Now, here is something, you and I talked about this briefly, but this seems to be a little bit of not a great piece of this. When a patient gets his or her prescription filled, the bottle should have a notification indicating there's a black box warning for the drug. The consumer would then need to go to the manufacturer's website for details.
See, that's ridiculous.
Not likely.
Who's going to do that?
But this is the good part. In addition, pharmacists are being encouraged by the FDA to provide patients with medication guide and consumer-friendly language explaining the risks of the drug.
Good.
So all instant release drugs will need to have such a guide, and it's up to the pharmacist to dispense this information, something the FDA is encouraging.
Why do you think this is all happening?
Let's see, have something to do with 50,000 people a year dying from
Opiates.
overdoses on just this kind of thing.
50,000 people that are losing their lives from drug overdoses. And I'll tell you what, the majority of it is not heroin, folks. It's prescription pills. We build up tolerance. And when we build up a tolerance, a lot of times it's a physical deal, but more emotional. So our minds need more than our bodies can handle. So when we're looking to get that original feeling, we can end up in real big trouble if we're lucky. So and then you take. But here's what since we're on this subject, I really want to spend another minute. I know I talk about this a lot, but we're going to talk about this probably every week for a while because we want to beat this 50,000 lives lost a year. We want to beat it up.
And that's more. By the way, we've said this, but it's worth saying again. That's more than all the automobile accidents and all this. I mean,
and gun violence, by the way.
Isn't that crazy?
And murders. But let me also say that that's just overdoses from drugs. We're not talking about homicides, suicides, car crashes, and everything else that comes along, or people being incarcerated. We're not talking about any of that. And we need to find those numbers out. But we're just talking about accidental overdoses. Period. And here's the scary part. This is what I really want everyone to pay attention to, is a lot of these people that are dying are people that actually weren't using drugs for a while. So what happens is, you get an addict and they do everything they can to stop using, to beat it up a little bit, and then decide one day, well, you know what, I haven't used in a while, I want to get high. And before you know it, they take one or two pills, they shoot a little dope, whatever it is that they're doing, it's not getting them high enough. The problem is it's getting their body high enough, not their mind. I've been clean and sober for 35 years. And I remember the last few months of my using, I was prescription drugs. I couldn't get high. I would take more. I couldn't get high. I'd wake up and I'd be bounced. I bounced around on the floor, and I can't figure, how did I bounce around? I wasn't high. My body was. So what happens is we take too many pills to get that feeling that we're looking for. We're chasing the dragon or the monkey on the back or whatever they call it now. And we shoot too much, just a little bit more dope. And so look at how many a day? 190, almost 200 people a day are dying because they're chasing this high. So we really need to pay attention. I never thought I would teach people how to use drugs, but if you're somebody that's addicted to pills, first of all, get medical help when you want to come off of it. That's very important.
Oh, yeah.
Second of all, if you decide to relapse, you better remember that you can't use what you used to use. Your body can't handle it. That's why we're losing almost 200 people a day in this country alone. Pay attention to your body.
And as I had mentioned on a previous show, something that we talk about all the time, and that is they're not certain what it is they're putting into their body.
Well, when it comes to pills, we know what it is because they're prescription, and that's what probably makes it so darn dangerous, especially for children. It's in my mom's medicine cabinet. My dad takes them for his back. How could it be bad? So we know when it comes to pills, but we don't know how dangerous it is and how deadly it is because it's prescription stuff, and we think we know what we're doing. Well, I'll never take too much, but when it comes to the stuff that is bought in the streets from connections, heroin and that kind of stuff, you don't know. You don't know. I mean, there's some heroin out there now that's so powerful, people are dying. It's cut with fentanyl. So it makes it so much stronger than ever before. You just don't know what you're doing.
Right, and of course, fentanyl is one of the drugs that the FDA is going to black box.
Yeah, and just, you all know this, especially addicts, okay? If you're shooting dope, it's called Russian roulette. Something bad's going to happen sooner or later in the subject. You're going to end up sober. You're going to end up overdosed or dead. You're going to end up in an institution, but you can't just keep getting. It's just not going. Something's going to happen. So why not figure a way to stop before that happens? People say, "Well, I got to hit bottom." Hey, I've been to many, many funerals for people that never hit bottom.
There you go.
So we really need to pay attention to it. If you're one of those people that are saying, you know what, I'm taking these pills, I need them for my back or my neck, but maybe I have a problem, go with the maybe. Maybe you do have a problem. If you're questioning yourself, maybe you do.
That's a good thing. I think, if they get to the questioning point, let's err on the side of caution and say, let's check this out.
Anytime you got to question yourself, hey, do I have a problem with drinking? Do I have a problem with cigarettes? Are these prescription pills? Do I really need the Vicodin? Look, I know I have anxiety, but do I really need to take all these Xanax every day?
Yeah.
And walk around fogged?
Mm-hmm.
Really take a hard look at what's going on. A lot of times, I'll tell you, the Xanax and the other pills that keeps you in that fog. What I do for a living is I treat people. When they come off these drugs in a couple of weeks, they feel a whole lot different and better, and they say the same thing, almost everyone. That black, dark cloud that follows me around and keeps me depressed and messed up is gone. When you're in some kind of an altered state, it's not real. Reality's not reality. So you gotta really take a hard look at what's going on with yourselves. These pills are meant for short-term treatment. They really are. Or chronic pain. Mm-hmm. Not for long-term use.
Not at all.
No.
Cary, at Action, you don't just treat the addicts, you also treat families.
We have to, because if you think about it, let's pick a kid. There's a kid, 16 years old. He goes from haze to fails in 2 weeks. He's starting using drugs. He's running away. He's being disrespectful. Who's he affecting?
Everybody.
Everybody in the house. Mom, dad, brothers and sisters especially. And by the way, if you're having an issue with one of your older siblings and you have younger ones, you know how you feel? Those younger kids feel even worse. So drug addiction, and I won't even say drug addiction, drug usage or alcohol addiction or usage affects everybody that cares for that person. Nobody wants to see somebody that they love in pain.
Well, that's what we need to talk about a little bit today, and that's addiction, the effects on family and family system. And we've been saying it here, addiction doesn't just affect the addict who's addicted to drug or alcohol. It is in many ways a family disease, and disease is a good word for it, it really is. Often families are so much in denial about the disease of addiction and the condition of their family member, they become unhealthy as well. A component of addiction treatment and Action family counseling is treating the entire family. You could be a spouse, a brother, a sister, a mother, a father of an addict, and you should be a part of the addict's treatment.
I was doing an intervention last week on a father. Actually, it was on TV. You'll all see it. It'll be on that international news. I'll let you know when. And at the end of the intervention, the wife of the husband said, "Can I bring the small children to family group?" And I said, "They already know. They're not going to learn anything different. They've been hiding and scared every night, wanting to know if Daddy was going to be alive or not." And then she started crying. She said, "You're right. They actually said that." So you have to allow everybody to be part of. And I tell you, the more people involved in somebody's treatment, the better shot that person has of recovery.
Boy, that's for sure. The answer is that alcoholism and other drug addiction is a disease that affects the entire family. Addiction takes a toll on every family member, not just the addict. An addict's world, and this is interesting, Cary, because you've mentioned this before, an addict's world becomes smaller and smaller as his or her lens focuses on the relationship with the chemical.
Right. They start isolating, and really the relationship in their world is the drug or the alcohol.
A lot of their time is spent getting the chemical, using it, and recovering from using it.
Exactly, and figuring out new ways and means to get more. And here's you can ask yourself this: if you're not a prescription pill addict, if you're a heroin addict, if you smoke too much pot, or whatever the deal is, when you wake up in the morning and you go to the bathroom, and the first thought in your head is, how am I going to get my dope today? Then you definitely got a problem.
Well, I'd say. And family members have a problem too, because all of their focus starts shifting more and more toward the addict and their behavior, right?
Of course.
That's what they're thinking about.
Because you don't know what's coming.
No.
They're so unpredictable. They could be sweet and nice and then mean and nasty. They could be happy and then they could be suicidal. Everything could be wonderful and they could disappear for 3 days. So it's just so unpredictable. It's a disease of unpredictability.
Yeah.
And loneliness and misery and everything else that comes with it. So low self-esteem, I can go on for days.
But while the addict's unpredictable, a lot of family dynamics are very predictable, because individual and family dynamics take a predictable course of progression.
They do.
And it's sad. And we've talked about this before, about the various kinds of people in the family, what we call them, that take various roles in the family,
right.
The enablers and such like that. And people listening to us may have heard about some of this.
Well, the enabler, let's just spend a minute on that. I was speaking to a father actually yesterday evening that has a 28-year-old, and this kid's shooting dope in his room. He's gone for 3 or 4 days at a time, and I'm saying maybe he ought to do an intervention, and he's afraid to do an intervention because it might piss his kid off, and his kid might not like him, and his kid might leave the house and go use more dope. How can he use more dope? He's already got a place to live. He's got no expenses. Right. He comes and goes when he wants. He shoots as much dope as he wants, and he's got almost money whenever he wants it.
So that's the rescuer and enablers making it easy for them.
Enabling can kill somebody.
That sure
we
can.
Really better check our reasonings behind that and our motives.
Now, do we want to take a break before we go on with the rest of these?
Let's take a break. But hey, if anybody wants to get involved in this phone conversation, you can call at 661-298-5487.
What's that number again?
661-298-5487. Don't be shy.